Good morning, members and guests. Welcome to the Sutherland County Committee. This is our final county committee for this council term, and I'm sure the committee will be reformed in May, but who knows who is sitting here. We'll have to wait and see. It could be a whole different ballgame. I think. Well, we'll just go through the agenda here. First of all, do we have any apologies for absence, Sam?
I haven't received any.
No. Okay. All right. We do have a couple of members not with us at the moment, but they may join us later. Declarations of interest? No, I'm seeing some shaking heads there. I have to declare. I have to declare for items 6 and item 9. As a trustee of the Gospel Development Trust, which will be discussed during these items, I will turn my camera off and mute my microphone and hand over the chairs to Hugh Morrison, Councillor Hugh Morrison, who is the Deputy Chair of the County Committee. So he will take control of proceedings for item 6 and item 9. No other declarations of interest, members? No. Okay, thank you. Now, before we go on to the agenda of item 3, I think Councillor Ymca has a statement to make at the moment. What do you do?
Chair, thank you very much indeed. I do appreciate you giving me this opportunity. Chair, I was elected in 1999 and this is my final county committee, and never in a million years did I think my concluding remarks would be focused on the Highlands and the role of a tyrant who has placed his nuclear force on special alert. On Saturday, a private Learjet registered in Estonia flew from Inverness to Moscow. Yes, Inverness to Moscow. Its journey started the previous day, last Friday, when it departed Moscow to Geneva. On Saturday, it then flew Geneva to Amsterdam and on to Inverness, from where it flew to Moscow. We need urgently to ask, why was this allowed? Who was on this round trip to Moscow? And what was their business? Russian planes, including private jets, are banned from UK airspace. So what we appear to have witnessed is the exploitation of a loophole which requires to be closed rapidly. And this at the same time a Russian oil tanker is due to dock in Orkney. Now this incident has been referred to Westminster and I understand will be raised in Parliament today. However, what it also does is bring into sharp focus the reach of Putin's evil and the role we all need to play against the man who has invaded Ukraine, threatened Scandinavian neighbours and placed his nuclear force on special alert, and the man whose cronies dared to land on our doorstep. Sutherland is one of the most sparsely populated areas in all of Europe, but we also have a role to play. And I reflect on the role played by the Highlands during World War II, and in particular, the Arctic convoys, who played a vital role supporting Russia during its years of oppression. Like the rest of the free and civilized world, we have been utterly sickened and appalled by what we have seen in Ukraine, and we now stand firm with the people of Ukraine. Every act of unity counts, and at every level, around the world, we need to do all we can to support the people of Ukraine. Chair, we urgently and with no further delay require the UK government to act to close loopholes. The people of the Highlands will not provide a backdoor for Putin's cronies to travel. They are not welcome here. Chair, I thank you again for your indulgence and welcome the thoughts and support of Sutherland County Committee and potentially the support of Highland Council. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Deirdre. I think we have, from my personal perspective, I fully support what you're saying there, and I think it's really beyond the reach of the county committee that we should raise this as a star item to seek this full support of Highland Council in condemning this type of activity and seeking reassurance that Inverness Airport is not going to be used as a gateway into Russia. So I'd like to raise that as a star item if that's competent. Can you advise on that, please? Well, first of all,
yes, that's fine. If could get the exact wording in the chat line.
Okay.
In a minute.
Judy, can you put something in the chat on the chat line just for?
Yep.
Thank you.
Will do.
Yep. Councillor Morrison.
Yeah, it's just really to reiterate what Councillor Mackay had said there. I did notice it over the weekend. It was highlighted on Twitter, I think it was, and it was quite bizarre to see it travelling from Inverness into, I think it was southwest of Moscow, somewhere like so. Yeah, it was bizarre, but no, just support what's been said already. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that. Councillor McGilvery.
Just to register my complete agreement with everything that Deirdre just said, Chair.
Thank you for that. Okay, I think we're all agreed. That's going forward with that. I don't see any other hands up. Nobody else wanted to comment on that at the moment. So I think if Deirdre can put something in chat there and to go as a motion to the full council as a start item, that would be excellent. Do you want to continue with that right now, or what you said was pretty eloquent? So you just cut and pasted that into the chat and ask for full support of the council. But that would suffice. So you do that. In the meantime, if you're okay, Deirdre, with that, if you're quite comfortable, we'll move on to item 3, and which is the Scottish Fire and Rescue Global Performance Report, and we've got Paddy Farrell with us to deliver the report, and he also has with him Michael Humphreys. Michael, do you want to tell us exactly what your new role is going to be, and just introduce yourself first before Paddy starts on the.
Thank you very much, Councillor Gale. So my name's Michael Humphreys. Been with the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service for just over a week, and my role, Group Commander for the Highland North. So variety of station commanders working and managing the fire stations within the Highland Council area. Paddy Farrell being one of those who's representing them and also talking through the report this morning. My experience previously, I was with Royal Berkshire Fire and Rescue Service for 18 years prior to this as a group manager also. So that's me, and thank you for having me this morning.
Thank you, and welcome to the committee. We look forward to working with you as we go forward. Paddy, over to yourself.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, members. I am Station Commander Paddy Farrell, and I'll be presenting the SFRS performance report for Sutherland for Q3 2021-22. First of all, if I could direct you to section 3.2 of the cover letter. Despite COVID-19, we have maintained our engagement activities within communities. We have continued to adapt our approach to ensure we are able to engage and support particularly people in high-risk households. This approach was both to protect vulnerable members of the community from COVID-19 and also our frontline staff. In line with Scottish Government guidance, we are now once again able to carry out home fire safety visits to medium and low risk households and return to public engagement activities such as school visits and community events. Moving to section 3.3. Analysis of operational activity in Q3 shows 2 accidental dwelling fires attended in Sutherland. Crews continue to carry out community engagement activities following each domestic incident, aiming to drive this number even lower. Crews attended 0 incidents involving fatal accidental dwelling fires or accidental fire casualties. This continues to be a pleasing trend, and once again we will continue to try and drive maintain this trend and to keep this figure at 0. 0 deliberate fires were also attended in Q3, and 2 special service road traffic collisions were attended within the same period. Crews attended 19 unwanted fire alarm signal incidents, which represented a slight increase from the same period last year. Crews will continue to engage with premises to identify causes and reduce these occurrences. SFRS are currently analysing data from a UFAS consultation, which will inform how the service responds to UFAS incidents in the future. If I could direct you to section 3.4. We are continuing with our drive to recruit new entrants into stations across Sutherland. In response to feedback from recruits and applicants and how the recruitment process is carried out, we are trialling what is referred to as the Pre-Employment Engagement Programme, or PEEP. This is being trialled in a number of areas across Scotland, including Highland, and it is aimed that more stages of the recruit process are carried out locally, which means less of an impact on potential recruits in terms of time away from their full-time employment, and also a much shorter period between an applicant submitting an application form and then joining us on a recruits course. We have a number of applicants received for Sutherland, and it is anticipated that they will participate in the PEEP. In early December, we have had in place a bespoke mobilising arrangement between Bettyhill and Tongue fire stations. This procedure takes into account the local geography and circumstances such as crewing difficulties for both these stations, and allows them, in the event of an emergency incident happening within each of these station areas, for the stations to merge to form one full crew when neither station has sufficient personnel to mobilise independently. Although this bespoke mobilising procedure does not necessarily guarantee 100% availability, it does mean a significant improvement in fire cover for the area, and has been used successfully on a number of occasions when previously a response would have had to have been mobilised from Thurso. We will of course continue our efforts to attract more applicants to these stations, and will continue our efforts in recruitment campaigns. I'm happy to take any questions at the moment if any members have any questions on the report that's been submitted.
Thanks for that, Paddy. I suppose that from my perspective, looking at the report, the most alarming thing of all is the availability of the Tongue station and getting access to, well, if anything happens at all, then it's a long way from Thurso, as you said, but it doesn't see it that this alternative work between Bettyhill and Tongue as being an option there. But what I was thinking when I was reading the report was, is there, to encourage additional applicants, is there any way that for a short period, a full-time staff member could be based up in that area to try and, well, A, be able to add to the resource you have already, and B, to work on a much more concentrated recruitment drive in the area to explain the benefits of it. It's just a thought I had. I welcome your thoughts on that as a possibility.
Thank you, Chair. We do have a number of full-time staff based throughout Highland, and their role can be to assist with crewing at specific stations if they are, say for short, maybe a driver or someone with their incident command qualification. At Tongue Fire Station at present, we have 3 firefighters, and we need a minimum of 4 for that appliance to be able to mobilise to an incident safely. Unfortunately, throughout the day, what you will normally find is that we would need all three of those personnel to be available in order for one person. If we were to dispatch for, we do have one person who's a full-time member of staff based here in Thurso who could, like you say, carry out the role where they go out to Tongue to supplement the crew to support the crew numbers, but we would need all other 3 members of the Tongue crew to be available also. And what we find is during the day that at least one of those crew members is booked off with their full-time employment. So as much as that is we do find that as an option, to have a full-time member go out to these stations on an ad hoc basis when they're available. What we find is on any given day, it maybe not be suitable because there's more than one member of staff actually booked off for their primary employment or for annual leave or training courses or for any other reason. We do have a home fire safety visit strike team based in Thurso, which are several members of the Thurso Fire Station crew who carry out home fire safety visits. So that service is provided out with Bettyhill, Tongue and the surrounding sort of Caithness district, which does extend into Sutherland. And the full-time members of staff that we have within Highland are certainly able to and do support recruitment efforts in the local area. I believe it was October last year, we did have several open nights at Tongue and Bettyhill fire stations, and of course we did succeed in attracting a number of applicants for Bettyhill fire station, and absolutely, if we more than willing to look at that again, especially for tongue, to aid in the recruitment drives in these areas.
That's right, Paddy. Jim?
I think Hugh was in there first, Chair. I'll let you.
Carry on, Jim. Carry on.
Oh, no, it's just a quick question. The only statistic that really caught my eye was the 2 accidental dwelling fires in the month of June. And I must admit, I usually associate accidental dwelling fires with chimney fires. So I was quite intrigued to know what's the underlying cause in that situation, if possible.
Okay, I'll let Hugh come in, and then if you can answer both the questions, Paddy. Hugh.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and good morning to both Paddy and Michael. I think if we jump back a wee bit, I think the issues we have in rural areas in Sutherland is that we're an ageing population. And if you look at the school rolls just now, you'll see that the future's not bright for anything in this area. Tang has had this problem for a number of years where just can't get anybody coming in 18 plus, which also is another issue. That should be really taken down to 16 when they leave school. They can stay in the area and it can be part of 2 or 3 jobs that they get in this area. But you know, when you have high school in Kilberry's got something like 37 people, so the future, and that's Darnus, Kilberry and Scouty, so you can see what the future there of young people is. So it is very difficult, but I think we also need to hold on to what we have. That's been a problem over the last number of years as well. So there's lots of problems, but as Paddy said, that Betty Hill and Tang issue is semi-resolved. It's not 100%, but it's better than nothing. And I think that's what we looked for throughout the last couple of years, was to get something that was better than nothing, because just now, well, previous to December, it was nothing for Tang especially. So summertime going from Darnus to Tang can take you an hour, so probably Thurso is quicker. So we just, I mean, it's, and also the fire brigade did a recruitment drive, but if there's nobody there to recruit, it's very difficult to get them. So that's one of the biggest issues in this neck of the woods, is the lack of people that are able to, and that's male and female, lack of people that are available to join the fire brigade. But I think we need to keep plugging away. I always do my bit when I can. 32 years in the fire brigade, so I know what it's about. But as I say, you can't pick them off the shelf. It's not like the middle of Glasgow when you have 2 posts and 100 people applying for it. It's a totally different ballgame up here. You might have, you know, the posts are always open in this neck of the woods, and if you can get somebody that's left school and stayed locally, by the time they're 18, you can encourage them to go and join the fire brigade. And it's and I think, you know, the training aspect of it is 2 weeks away for your initial, and then 2 weeks away for VA. So if that's 1 year, that's 4 weeks at your holidays. So not a lot of people can do that as well. So there is issues, but I mean, you know, to take it down to localized level, you can't train them anywhere else other than Invergordon or Inverness. So you have to leave the Sutherland to go and do training anyway. So, but no, thanks for the report. I think you've probably been told a number of times about my views on different things here, so I'll not bore you anymore. And Michael, maybe touch base for you regarding some of the stations down the west coast from Scouty to Lochimber. I think it would be important to touch base with you on that, and try and get some action moved forward on them as well, because, you know, at the end of the day, lives are at risk if there's no stations on the run, and that is a big problem for rural areas when it could be an hour and a half to the nearest station. So lots to take away, hopefully for you, but lots to do from all of us as members as well as yourselves. So thanks for the report today, and catch up with you both soon, hopefully.
Thank you. Okay, Paddy, could you just address Councillor McGilvery's point, please? Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor McGilvery, I'm afraid I don't have any specific origin and cause for those incidents. It would be something that would be reported on every incident commander once after we attend every incident. If it be an accidental dwelling fire or a UFAS incident, the incident commander will have to fill in what we call an IRS report, and they would log what they believe is the most likely cause of that incident. But I'm afraid on this occasion I don't have a specific origin and cause for those two incidents.
Okay, thank you, Paddy. Members, do you have any other questions or any points to raise? I'm not seeing any hands. Well, Paddy, thank you very much indeed for the report. It's very interesting. I mean, it's encouraging to see the good figures really there, and it's I know that all your staff do a tremendous job in supporting and keeping the Sutherland safe. And I do recognise the challenges you have on the North Coast, and as Hugh has very rightly said, depopulation is one of our biggest issues we have up there, and we really need to attract employment and to sustain the population up there. And it's really important that. But it's an answer. It's a question that's been going around for a long time, and nobody's really come up with a good solid answer yet. But we'll keep trying to do that. So thank you once again, gentlemen, for attendance. I think it's been there's been no controversy there, so thank you very much, and I look forward to hearing from you in the future, and looking forward to working with yourself as well, Michael, going forward. You're more than welcome to stay and listen to the rest, but I'm sure you've probably got other things you'd rather be getting on with at the moment. But thank you again for your attendance.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you also
much,
to yourself and to the members as well for your continued support with us in the service in the area. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Bye bye now.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Okay, members, we have next on the agenda is the North Coast Campus review, and we've got Alison with us, Alison Donald, and do we have anybody else with us, or just yourself, Alison?
Catherine should be here as well over there. She's
hello.
popped up.
Hi, Catherine. Thank you for attending.
Yeah.
Thank you. You want to just crack on with your presentation?
Okay, thank you, Chair, and good morning, everybody. I brought Catherine along this morning. She's the best person to let us know how things are going at the North Coast campus. She has a presentation that she's going to try and share. I sent it to you as well, Anne, so I don't know if she'll be able to share it herself, or maybe Anne will be able to share it as well, where she'll talk about the recovery and growth within the North Coast campus, and she'll be able to give some more understanding around the data and the report you've received. And then Catherine and I will be available to answer any questions. So over to you, Catherine.
Thank you. I don't know, Anne, if you're able to share it, because I'm not sure if I'm able to share it from my end. Is that possible or not?
You are listed as a presenter, Catherine, so you should.
Am I? Well, I'll try. Let me see if I can. No. It's probably my technological issues rather than anything else, but I don't think I'm going to be able to share it. I can talk it through without sharing it with you, though. That's okay.
I'll try to do it as well when you start off there.
Right. Okay. Well, I'll get started anyway, and if Alison can share it, that's great. And if not, it's fine. It's just a visual, really, of what I was going to say anyway. So, hello everybody. It's nice to see you in this virtual world that we're all currently living in. So, Alison's asked me to come along today and just have a chat with you about how things are going in the campus. Brilliant, Alison. Thank you. And randomly, it's almost a year to the day since I was last here doing this. So I don't know if that's planned, but it's quite interesting to see it's just been a year. So the last time I spoke, I've sort of framed what I was doing around lockdown lessons. And this time I've moved on now to recovery and growth, because I think that's where we are. So what we've been doing since we've come back is really reviewing where our children are, trying to find out where they are with their learning, what the impact has been on their learning with the lockdowns and the situation that we're currently in, and putting plans into place to try and address gaps and issues that they are experiencing, and that's across the primary schools and the high school. Our focus has very much been on health and well-being. That has been the absolute priority, and in terms of attainment, we've been looking at literacy and numeracy as well as our key focuses for the last period of time. So we have been lucky in that we have had some recovery funding, so 0.4 of a teacher across the high school and the primary schools, which has been used to help the children who we've identified as having gaps in their learning. So that means taking small groups out and working with them on focused tasks, letting the teacher come out and work with individuals or groups of kids. So it's really been extremely beneficial, and the data that we use has shown us that that's having a really positive impact. So children who were a bit behind, for example, in their literacy, are now getting back to where we would have thought they should have been. So it's been really beneficial and really helpful. And in the high school, we've just had our prelims, first time our children have had an exams in person for a very long time, and that brought its own issues. But the results were as we would have expected, so that was really good. Yeah, so Alison, could you move on to the next, not the next slide, but the one after, if you're able to. So I was going to talk specifically about the primaries and the ELC. So we have, as you will have seen from the figures, that you've got really good attendance in our primary schools. They're very well resourced. We've been extremely well supported by our parent councils over the past couple of years, and that has allowed us to purchase things that otherwise we wouldn't have been able to. And also over in Tongue, we've been given £11,000 by the local landowner who donated it in order for us to create what's called the Hope Library in the school. So that's been amazing and transformed what we have in terms of books. A really big push in the primaries and in the ELCs has been outdoor learning. So we've been really trying to spend a lot more time outside. The Care Inspectorate now inspect us to be outside as much as we are inside, which given our climate can be a real challenge. However, I'm delighted to say that we have recently revamped the shelter shed over in Melvick. So that's a brand new building, really based on the footprint of the old one, which the children have been in a lot. And in Tongue, we have just in the last week got our gazebo up outside, which the children can use as an outdoor learning environment. So that's fantastic, really good. In Far at the moment, we have a lot of building work going on. There are new classrooms coming, which is fantastic. But because of that, we haven't gone any further with putting anything new up there. But we already have a gazebo in Far that the children can use from the primary school and the ELC. So that's fabulous, really good. We're trying to get back to normal as much as possible. So outdoor learning has become normal now. Children are taking on the old responsibilities that they used to have. So our eco committees are up and running. Our pupil councils are very active, and we have various other groups, but the children are able to join to give them additional responsibility, and that's just that's fantastic. One of the biggest issues that we face in our primaries and in our nurseries is staffing. So as I'm sure Hugh will be very aware, there just isn't anybody there. So if something goes wrong and people are off, we haven't got people we can call on. So we try, being a campus, to rejig and move people around as best we can. But when you've got so many staff off, there's only so much you can do. So I had a day a couple of weeks ago, I think I had 5 staff off in the high school and 2 staff off in my nurseries. So we can only spread ourselves so thin, and that is a real problem. We have been trying to recruit onto the relief list, and we had 10 people who wanted to go on the relief list way back in August. Some of those people are still waiting to be put on the relief list, which means we can't take them in, and that is a real ongoing issue, and Alison's very aware of that. We have discussed that, but it resulted in me having to shut 2 of my nurseries 2 weeks ago because there just simply wasn't anybody to call on to come in. Alison, I don't know if you can move the slides forward or not. Just there's some nice pictures, but yeah, if you could. Okay, so we had a visit from the Care Inspectorate 3 weeks into the term in Tongue ELC. So that's an unannounced visit. And I have to say it was a very challenging experience. We did not find it very supportive. The inspector spent approximately 45 minutes in the nursery and one conversation with one child, and based the report on that because we were only 3 weeks in, and I think 8 out of 9 of the children are 2 years old. Most of those children had spent under 2 hours in the nursery because they were phasing in to become used to it. But we were quite heavily criticised for not having paperwork completed about those children in terms of their preferences, special things about them, which we would need to know to meet their needs. But given that the children had only been in for such a brief amount of time, we found that very difficult to really understand how we could have done that. They did acknowledge the happiness of the children. They referenced the nursery as being a warm and caring place, but that wasn't really given an awful lot of focus in the report. Our parents were hugely positive, and once the report was published, a number of them made the effort to speak to us about how disappointed they were with the report because it's not their experience of the nursery. But still, we're trying to view it in a learning way, and there are certainly lessons from it that we have taken forwards. So one of them is the need to evidence our cleaning regime more formally. So rather than saying we have cleaning taking place at set times during the day, because all that's already evidenced in a risk assessment, we need to go to the level of detail of at 2 o'clock on Monday the 5th, the Lego was put in the dishwasher to be cleaned. So, okay, we can do that. That's fine. We've reviewed our practices to ensure that we're doing that. There's a clear message that we need to have more natural resources. They really don't like having plastic. And they like the children to use real life resources. So, for example, another thing that we got picked up on was not giving our children ceramic cups with handles to drink out of. So given some of them are 2, they think we were really trying to ensure that they weren't spilling things, but we take that on board, and we've now bought ceramic plates and cups and things like that for them to use. So that's fine. And yeah, definitely we're trying to get more natural resources and move away from the plastic as best we can. And the third thing that we really needed to take forwards was that over and above recording minutes of meetings, which we already do, we need to be recording informal conversations. So we need to have a record of things to evidence them. So for example, if somebody has done some professional development and learnt about an aspect of play that they just had a chat about with the other members of the staff, we should be recording that to show that that's happened. It's not good enough just to have a conversation about it. So that's fine. We're definitely taking that on and moved forwards from that time. And I have to say, Alison, you don't know this yet, but I've just been told in the last 5 minutes that Tongue have an unannounced inspection today. So it'll be really interesting to hear. You know, hopefully they'll see things that have moved on. So that'll be great. Okay, if we move on to the next slide. One of the things that we've introduced, which has gone down really well, is Dojo, which is a communication tool that we use with our parents. We're really missing having parents in, getting the chance to share what their children are up to. Dojo is an interactive app that you can download where you can instantly send photographs and messages to parents of what their children are up to. And our parents are loving that because it starts from the beginning. If you've got children, you know your children come home and you say, what have you done today? Nothing. And this is a really good way of getting past that and letting them have an opener. So I hear you were working with clay today. What were you doing? So yeah, Dojo's working really well, and we've currently got it in 2 of our primary schools. I think we're hoping we might move it into the other one. Also, they already have a really strong system in place for communicating, so they may choose not to. Okay, Alison, if we move on to the high school slide. So high school continues to have excellent attendance from our children and also excellent engagement. And I think it continues to be really a very special and unique high school because of the makeup. You know, the fact that we've got nursery, primary and secondary children all together. So 3-year-olds and 18-year-olds quite happily moving around in the corridor. I think that makes it a very special atmosphere. I have to laugh. I had one day not that long ago where I had to go and speak to the primary kids for throwing pine cones at the secondary kids. So it's good fun. It makes it a special place. So the high school is getting on, I think, very well. This year we have tried to retain or to return to normality as much as we possibly can. As you know, today is the first day without masks in the classrooms, which is fantastic. It's extremely difficult to teach with a mask on, I have to say. And also our children, lots of side effects of wearing masks, particularly acne and other things. So it's great that they're not going to have to wear them anymore when they're in classes learning. I don't know, Alison, if you can move on to the high school slide, if that's possible. We're seeing more activities taking place, so we're able to go on trips again now, which is fantastic. We're currently planning a whole school trip to Orkney to happen in June, so that'll be really, really exciting if we're able to do that. We have consistently had extremely good positive destinations for our high school children. I thought I would just share with you where we are. So we've got 5 who have currently applied for further or higher education. All 5 have got unconditional offers, which is amazing. So that ranges from psychology to drama to mechanical engineering to history, archaeology and history. And another boy who's my only 4th year leaver came to tell me today that he's been offered an apprenticeship with accommodation on a farm, and he is delighted. So positive destinations continue to be a real strength. It's something we work very hard on, and we start on from early doors in the school. It's not something that starts in 4th year. Sorry, I'll have to phone you back, sorry. Sorry about that. So yeah, positive destinations are good. We've got more partners re-engaging with us now. So Highland, for example, are in. They'll be doing lunchtime activities today. Skills Development Scotland are in, doing interviews and support sessions with our pupils. That's brilliant. Our child service worker, child support worker also comes to our school to work with our kids. So that's really good, because also virtual, has been a really good tool. There are some things that you really, really need to do face to face, and I do think it's important for the children to have those face to face interactions. Our children have a really strong feeling of ownership and responsibility in the high school, and I'll talk more about that when I get a bit further on. One thing I really do want to emphasise is the amount of stress that secondary children particularly are under at the moment. And I think while they've always had stressors of different kinds, the difference is now that it's a constant stress. So there is never a time when they're not feeling stressed and anxious, and it doesn't take very much to push them over the edge. A good example of that is we've put a notice board up at our door. We've got pictures of all of our senior pupils on that notice board. I took the pictures and I forgot to tell the children in enough notice that they were going to be getting their picture taken. I had 6th year girls, straight A children who've never had any sort of issue at all, an hour of crying because I'd asked to take their photograph. That's got nothing to do with the photograph. It's the stress that that child is already under, and I really think we have to acknowledge that. We have got more issues of self-harm going on and more panic attacks than we've ever had. And what's currently going on in the world is just adding to that. So after I finish this, I'm going to be going around all the classes to talk about what's going on just now, because we're really worried about our children and the impact it's going to have on them. I have to say, we don't feel like the support services are there. So we're the ones who are carrying things a lot in the schools. For example, I haven't had a school nurse physically in my building other than to do vaccinations. So a school nurse actually working with children or meeting with children for over 3 years. Same with educational psychologists. Haven't seen one in the building, although there has been some virtual engagement. Not here, not seeing the children, and I think that's really important to see the face-to-face. NDAS referral, so that's a referral for children who are having significant mental health issues or who may have a diagnosis of autism. You think they maybe should get a diagnosis. Speech and language. So we put one of my children, the referral went in 2019, and she has her first appointment next week. So that's 3 years it's taken for her to see anybody. She is now sitting her exams this year, and that has had a huge impact. So we have carried her as best we possibly could, but the children have got significant difficulties which they need professional help with, and although we're doing the best we can't keep filling the gap. Schools are under a lot of pressure terms of trying to help their children just now. We're doing the best we can, like I say, but you know, it would be good if we had more services. So that takes me to a bit of a more positive thing, which is mental health. So way back at the beginning in August, we appointed our prefects and our head pupils and our pupil councils. Sorry, Susan, I'm in a meeting. Sorry, I should have put a meeting on my door and on my phone. I forgot to. And the pupils, we asked them, what do you think is important? What do you want us to take forwards this year? And to a one, they wanted help to help themselves. They wanted to know what to do if they come across a child having a panic attack, what to do if somebody is feeling extremely anxious. They weren't looking for us to solve their problems. They wanted to be equipped with the tools to solve those problems themselves. And I thought that was absolutely incredible, really, and very inspirational. So from that, we decided that 2 of our 3 staff groups would focus on health and wellbeing. One group looking at ongoing health and wellbeing activities, and that's for staff and pupils. So things like there's a sports club that will meet at lunchtime today, which pupils and staff can go to, various other things that they've got going on. And the other group were tasked with coming up with a health and wellbeing day. Now, Alison, if you can move on the slides, there are pictures of this. So if you go to the one that says mental health and wellbeing secondary, is that possible?
Yeah, I did. And then I've now gone on to the photos. Can everybody see that? Or is it just me who's seeing
I
it?
can just see the care inspectorate visit to tell me.
No, it hasn't shifted.
It's shifted.
Okay, I'll try again. Sorry.
That's all right. It's okay. It's just that there's some pictures. So anyway, we had a health and wellbeing day 2 weeks ago, which was organised by 3 members of staff. So everybody came off timetable for the whole day. And we had 3 different activities going on, which people worked around in groups. And those were ranging from yoga to a walk to the beach, to a lady who came in and did sound therapy. So all staff and all pupils attended that. And it was just such a relief to have that day where you could forget about the pressures that you were facing academically and just be allowed to sit and relax and talk to people you would normally talk to. So feedback we got from the pupils was fantastic. They wanted to know, could we do that every week? I'm afraid I had to say no. Once a year is probably about as far as we can go, but it was great. So following on from the senior pupils meeting, we also managed to put on a first aid at work course. So that was for all of our S4 and upwards, in fact S3 and upwards pupils, and 75% of the school decided they wanted to do that course. And I think the fact that the course was run on a Saturday and a Sunday says a lot. So those pupils gave up one day of their weekend to come and do that, and that's them now certified, and they can take that forwards with once they're out of school. So it's the one that's recognised, the health first aid at work. We have brought Mikey's Line in, who I'm sure you're all aware of. They help children with a range of issues. So they've come in and done a whole session with our pupils. They have what's called youth champions. So that's exactly what our children were looking for. The youth champions are children who are trained up in different ways of supporting each other. So of our senior pupils, we have 15 children volunteering to get trained up, which is phenomenal. The lady who came in said that she was in a much, much bigger school in Highland, and they didn't have a single child come forwards to be one of their champions. So we're delighted with that. We're really, really happy. And I think it's also really important because it's giving the children the power that they were looking for in terms of being able to try and help each other and help themselves. We've got a growing focus on creativity in the school, which also links to health and wellbeing. Creativity is very much about looking at things in a different way and trying to find alternative solutions to problems, rather than just seeing problems as problems. It's about looking outside of the box. So we've been really pushing that this year. And again, outdoor learning in the high school is something we're really trying to take forwards too. So that's health and wellbeing. Alison, if you can move on to the next slide. That's a leaflet that one of our teachers put together, which is a summary of different ways and places that children can go to for help. And that's really good. Mikey's Line also has the facility for children to phone at any time that they need help. which, given how long it takes to get an appointment with other organisations, is something that we're really delighted to be able to share with our pupils. We've also been doing health and wellbeing in the primary school. So they have a health and wellbeing wheel. Sorry, Alison, it's not moving, and I don't know if you can do anything about that. A health and wellbeing wheel is a wheel that you use to review how you're feeling, and we do that once a term with our primary school pupils in all of the primary schools. And it's a really good way of reviewing how they're getting on and identifying issues that they might not have been able to verbalise or might not have shared with us. So it leads to further conversations, help and support as is needed. And it lets you see how they're getting on and whether there's been progress over the course of the year. So that's fantastic. We've also had health and wellbeing days going on in our primary schools, and they're a more regular event, which again gives them a break from the routine and allows them to explore new ways and new ways of doing things and new ways of coping with things. So Melvick, just last week, they had a huge spread of healthy fruit and vegetables. They had curling, indoor curling going on, and a range of other activities, which is really fabulous that they're able to do again. It's the sort of thing we wouldn't have been able to do when the rules were a bit stricter. So I'm nearly finished. You'll be relieved to hear. So the last slide I've got is about ongoing challenges. So staffing, I've already talked about the problem with the relief list, and that's across the whole of all of the schools. But for the high school, this is an issue which I face every year, where my staffing allocation is made on a yearly basis, and it's based on the number of pupils I have. Now, in a small rural school, losing 5 pupils can make all the difference between being allocated the number of teachers I had and the number of teachers I am supposed to have. I personally do not feel that it works for small schools. And every year I sit and I go, right, okay, how can I make this work? So last year I committed all of my supply budget to finance my overstaffing. I don't believe I'm overstaffed, I have to say, but based on the allocation, I'm overstaffed. This year, because I had to do that, I already have no money left for my school, and I'm sitting, and apparently I'm 1.22 staff over. Now, Alison's been really helpful, and I think I've found a way to reduce that, but I'm still sitting going, what do I lose? Do I lose a language? That would mean no languages in the school. Do I lose technology, which is what a number of our children use to get towards their apprenticeships? Do I take away a social subject? I don't think that's right that we have to do that. And I also feel that rural schools are very different from big schools in centre, and the challenges we face are really quite unique. So I'm hopeful that we'll find a way through this, but I do think it is the biggest challenge as a high school that I'm currently facing. Lack of cover, so there aren't any secondary teachers out there to use for relief. So last week I taught woodwork, I taught graphic communication, I taught English, and I took a PE session. And it's because there's nobody else there to use. So, you know, it would be really good if we could attract more teachers to the region and get them on the relief list. Transport is an ongoing problem that we have across all of our schools. And as I've said, the lack of partners that we have out there. And another one I'm worried about is burnout from my staff. They're carrying an awful lot more than they've ever had to carry before. You know, these children who are having these panic attacks or self-harming or horrendous experiences, they're coming to my staff for help, and they're helping them. They're being fabulous. But, you know, there's a price at the other end for them. And I think we really have to look at teachers' wealth and wellbeing quite closely this year. But anyway, to end on positive, because there are lots of positives, I don't want to sound negative at all. This week's tests, so Times Educational Supplement, there is a large article which features one of my teachers very heavily about the importance of the waiver preference for attracting young teachers to the Highlands. She tells her story and she talks about the challenges, but also the overwhelming positives joining a small rural school, and that is absolutely fantastic to see. And I'm also delighted that our school has been nominated for one of the Highland Heroes awards that are coming up. So we're looking forward to seeing how that goes. And I'm looking forward to a wee night away in the King's Mills. And yeah, so there's lots of good things too, but these are difficult times. Okay, apologies if I've talked too much. I don't get a chance to speak to grown-ups very often. If you've got any questions, I'll be very happy, or Alison, I'm sure, I'd be very happy to answer them.
Yeah, thank you, Catherine.
Well, thank you, Catherine. That was really, really interesting, and I recognise the challenges that you have. They are quite enormous, and I think staffing and the reduction in the staffing level because you drop one or two people below a certain threshold is something that I see across a number of schools, and I think we don't take cognizance of the fact that we're dealing with small schools and the reducing numbers of people cut the opportunities that other pupils have, and it's the thought of losing a language or losing a science activity or whatever that might be. I think is quite a damning issue for the council and for education probably across Scotland, I suspect. So we need to be taking much more notice of our small schools and our rural areas. And I have to commend you for all the work that you're doing up there. It's not easy, and I recognise it, and I thank you very much for that. So I've got Linda's hand up. So Councillor Munro.
And good to see you here today, Catherine, and thank you for such a comprehensive account of all that's happening in Far and beyond. It was good to hear. Fiona and I think, have been twice in the school in the last year, By Fiona, I mean the Executive Chief Officer, Fiona Duncan, and I. And what we found was energy, positivity, a will to get it done, and a drive forward, a very strong drive forward. So huge commendations to everyone involved in that, because it's not easy, and particularly not easy in these times, but really it was genuinely heartening to be there. The teaching allocation, whenever I raise this on behalf of Far School, I'm knocked back fairly quickly from my perch and told the allocation works the way the allocation net works, and it's 1.2, 1.4, 1.5 over allocation, and we hear this all the time. So until that particular policy is challenged and we manage to work in something for rurality, we're going absolutely nowhere with that one. Catherine keeps telling me that parent councils come to the defence of the teachers saying it's not fair. I keep raising it and we just go in this ever decreasing circles. Actually, we go nowhere. However, shame on us. This list where people have actually signed up to join and want to be there to help in relief and want to be there to do the next thing. I have now twice written on that one and I'm told, yes, it's happening. Yes, we will. Yes, there are reasons. I think that's unacceptable in rural schools. We know the challenges, and when you're in a position that you can have people on a list, surely we should be doing everything in our power. And I think it's really good today that we've got Fiona, we've got Alison, we've got Catherine, and the councillors all saying, look, let's make this happen. We know there are pinch points in the year when all newly qualified teachers are going for, and I've forgotten the word now, when you need to get clearance to work in schools and all that sort of thing, and then thank you, and all that. So we know there are pinch points, but when people have been on a list for over a year, and now there's a new list come out, so we'll forget about everything that's gone there and we'll create a new list. Come on, even to get people onto this list, I think it's hugely important, and I can't find a credible reason why that's not happening. So that, Chair, I would like to see the drive of this committee, that it happens now. I'll accept all the rest and changes in policy, but the practical thing's hugely important. It was an absolute delight to be in Far, as it always is. No, they're anything like enough, but absolutely delightful. The kids were positive, they were confident, they were driving. That doesn't take away from the challenges they have. They spoke to us about rurality. They spoke to us about university visits. And Fiona and I were able to come up with some pretty good things, and hopefully they'll go into place in the not too distant future. Nicky Grant also very positive in looking at the driving, so that younger people can drive the minibuses that now you go and have to sit a test where some of us older guys have it on our licence, but now younger people need to go get that. And Catherine has managed to amass, along with her teaching colleagues, a good few folks that are willing to be drivers without being teachers. So hopefully lots more trips and things in the offing there. Pupils, and it's absolutely true, we found wanted to step up and say, well, does it always have to be the guidance teacher you talk to or somebody else? Couldn't we learn to do these things? Couldn't we? So on. So I took that on board and I've spoken to Bernadette Cairns about getting that in, some pupil mentoring to step up to a certain degree. You're not looking at them handling the heavy end of things, but things in place that would work too. So huge well done to everybody in FAR. But on us, I think there are some things that really do need to shake and shift. Many thanks.
Thanks, Linda.
Thank you for that, Linda. I think I couldn't agree with any more with the comments you made. That they're spot on. Councillor Morrison.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and good morning, Catherine, and congratulations on the presentation again, same as last year, excellent. And also to the work that you've done there over the period of time you've been in place. Like my only question is there any mileage in sharing teachers for the likes of Kilnabervie? Because they obviously have the same issue regarding staffing as well. So I know that it's maybe, I don't know, it's maybe similar, I don't know, like, but I was just wondering, is that something that somebody could do 2.5 days in each school or something like that that would work? I know there's a distance between you, but obviously you probably both have the same needs and the same issues as well. So just that's my question. Thanks.
Yeah, we actually do that already insofar as we share our Gaelic teacher with Thurso. So we're able to timetable it. But it does get extremely complicated timetabling when you are, for example, your French teacher is only there on a Monday. And the distance obviously means you can't go for part of a day. But it absolutely is something we would be, you know, really, if that would allow us to retain our staff, you know, but at the moment, our staff are all at bare minimum in terms of non-contact. So it's not that there's spare time in their timetables, which is an issue. Right now, I am down a teacher of technology and of graphic communication, and I will be for the rest of this term. I've written every high school in Highland asking, does anyone have any capacity, anything they can do to help? Everybody is in the same boat. People are at full tilt. You know, there's no give, there's no spare anywhere. Thurso have been really helpful and are going out of their way to try and mentor somebody here to help those kids. I've actually got a friend in the Central Belt who's giving up her Monday morning to teach my GCOM kids. That's how bad it is. That's the only way I can find a way to get them taught. So definitely open to anything that would allow us to retain our staffing, but there's just not a simple answer. I don't think it comes down to money at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Thanks for that. Councillor McGilvery.
Thanks, Chair. Just a few points. I noticed the reference to the Care Inspectorate. I'd like to put on record that I would back Catherine's judgment ahead of that of the Care Inspectorate and give her that kind of support I think that she deserves. Secondly, the problems of staffing and support services. Are we in a position here where we would wish to put forward a formal motion to recognise the problems that we have here in these rural schools and to actually register this for the benefit of the full council? If Linda has a lot to say there, but if she used to put forward a motion, I would certainly second it.
Well, that's certainly an option if members are so minded. If Linda or Jim would like to put a motion together, and we could put that as a start item to the full council. Is that
just if Linda's content with that?
I think this needs addressed as a full policy, Jim. What we would get is a headline. What we really need is change.
Would a headline be the first step?
Not my call.
Alison, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, if I can come in there. I was, you know, I completely understand where we are with the staffing, and you're right what Linda said. You know, she knows exactly what's happening there. And it's the allocation model. So the allocation model is there, and that is policy. So it would need a change in policy for rurality. We've talked about that, Catherine and I, or Kilnabervie, or, you know, and there are others in the West where the numbers, I can't remember, but say there's about 37 secondary kids in Catherine's school. That is really difficult. And what she ends up having to do is, and very successfully, is to be creative. So things like you were saying, Councillor McGilvery, about sharing with other, I think it was Councillor McGilvery, oh no, it was Councillor Morrison, about sharing with other schools, which is happening. Virtual, that's happening as well. And also you have a number of dual qualified teachers, and that makes a huge difference. But these are all creative things that Catherine and the authority are doing to make the biggest difference. As we move on, it would need to have a change in the allocation model for small schools, and there is really no other way forward, I would say, on that. If I can also speak about the supply list, Councillor Munro, yes, it is frustrating. I've looked into this a couple of times now when you got in touch, and my understanding, this supply list was cleansed, it was looked at. And the issue, I believe, but I didn't realise there were 10 people still waiting, so I will look into that again, is that sometimes the references aren't coming through. And when you speak to business support, they say, well, that's up to the person who's applying for the job. So they maybe go back once and say, you know, we haven't got your reference, but if they don't follow up on that. But I will look at that again. Recruitment is always difficult when you're recruiting for the North. That's always been something that we need to maybe try new things with as well. So yeah, I just wanted to add that in.
Sorry, could I just come in there just for a minute? Alison, I think that's Kinloch Bervie's numbers you're talking in the 30s. We're 79 up here. And you're absolutely right in terms of the references. I don't have 10 people waiting anymore because some people have just given up. They're not waiting. But the problem is when a reference is not put in, the person who's putting the application in isn't told. So they don't know it's all waiting on a reference. So they're still waiting and coming to me going, have you heard? Have you heard? And I'm not told it's because a reference hasn't gone in. So none of us can do anything. And it's only when I go back and say, why is this person still waiting? I'm then told it's because a reference hasn't come in. I then go and try and sort it out. But if I don't know that's the problem, you know, I think the system just needs review, Julie. It's just not working effectively. Sorry.
And Councillor McGilvery, you want them back in?
Just a quick point. I was going through the papers for Thursday's meeting, and I came across saving proposal EL12 for primary schools 1 to 19, and I just wondered if that was going to have any effect, or can it be safe? Is it going to have any effect in this particular campus?
I don't have an answer for that, I'm afraid, and I think it's. But so I'll have to watch and see. I mean, certainly on Thursday, Jim, by all means, feel free to talk about that. And if you feel there's an issue there, you can always propose an amendment.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Thanks, Chair. I'll just have to dig into a bit deeper and find out just which schools are actually involved. I'm always something, forgive me, my Editon in the front of my mind, which is just sitting on that number, and I'm very keen to protect whatever is happening there.
I appreciate that, and I know that other schools are in a similar situation. Fiona.
Thank you, Chair. Hopefully this will be helpful. In terms of the Care Inspectorate, obviously I link in with the inspectors all the time for the plethora of inspections that they do across the board. I think it is really important that you continue engaging with them, particularly in terms of feeling that perhaps they were a bit harsh. I think it's really important to have that conversation with them. I don't think they appreciate at times the impact that can have on staff, families, etc., and it's massive. But I think you're right. I think you need to move that into lessons learned, because that can sometimes be lost. So, but I totally understand the impact that can have. But just to be perhaps helpful in terms of trauma, mental health, etc., for the children, young people and teachers. Across Highland, we have trauma champions. Now, NHS Highland have more trauma champions. We are getting more on board in terms of Highland Council. Teachers can be part of that as well, and that is about making sure that we're using the materials that we have, which are produced by Scottish Government, to make sure that they are rolled out across the whole estate. People know what we're talking about in terms of trauma and how we react to that. Obviously, there's different levels, but I think really importantly, how anyone responds in the first instance can make a massive impact. And I think sometimes, you know, it doesn't matter what your profession is, what your role is. You are often the first person that somebody comes to. So how you respond to that is really important. So I'm happy to have a conversation, Catherine, Alison, with you just about trauma champions and how we can make sure that schools are actively involved in that, if not already. Thank you.
Thank you. That would be great. Just to say, regarding the Care Inspectorate, we had very robust conversations with them afterwards, and they changed some of the things they were saying. We discovered that what they had written for another ELC and us was verbatim. So we had very robust conversations, and as a result of that, some of the recommendations were taken away. But yeah, no, I'd be really happy to talk to you about trauma champions. That sounds interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't see any other hands. I just like to say, I think you're doing a wonderful job there, Catherine. And all the feedback I get is very, very positive. So, and I know, I recognise the challenges, but all I can say is carry on, because you're doing great, and just don't let the pressures to overwhelm you, because I think it's what's needed in these rural locations, as we've talked about earlier on in the meeting, is we need people, we need jobs, and we need to regenerate our remote rural areas, and that will feed into schools and every other aspect of rural life. So it's you're part of the cog that's actually going to drive that forward, and so all power to you, and thank you very much indeed for your attendance today. Much appreciated.
Okay, thank you for giving me the chance. Never, you know, it's nice to be able to share what we're doing.
That's
okay,
great.
I'll yeah.
Can I just say, I know Anne's got the PowerPoint. Perhaps she would pass it on to you. I'm sorry it wasn't turning. It was on my screen, so I don't know what was happening. But Anne, maybe you could forward the PowerPoint to the councillors. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Alison. I think, to be honest with you, hopefully this will be the last county committee that we have to do it remotely, and it's when we do it face to face, things will be a lot smoother, and we don't have to rely on the whims of the internet to keep us connected. So hopefully, when you come back again, Catherine, and I don't know if it'll be a year's time or not, but it'll hopefully be in the chamber of Dunui, and we'll be able to meet in person. So that'll be great.
Okay, thank you.
Who will be on that committee? I have no idea, but we'll have to.
Okay, I'll leave you now then, if that's okay. Thank you very much.
Many thanks.
Much appreciated. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye now. Okay, members, that was really interesting. Moving on to item number 5, is the Area Roads Capital Programme, and I think we've got Josie and Colin Hill with us today. I'm not you, Josie. Are you going to take us through this?
Yes, morning members, Chair. As before, you'll have the committee report for the next financial year's proposed prioritised works on the roadside. As it sits, we do not have a fixed budget. I think after Thursday we might have something a little bit more fixed in time. So the list in the appendix 2 doesn't have a red line on it at the moment. I'll be discussing that at board business meetings once we know what our spend is going to be and how it's going to go. But it's just to sort of let you see the long list of roads we've identified, we've prioritised them, and hopefully seek your approval that there's nothing glaringly omitted, or you're happy with the priority list, and take it from there. The budget is intended to be very similar to last year, so it's a nice healthy budget. And as you're aware, sort of back in September, we did get extra money with the Health and Prosperity Fund, which we are looking to spend. We've been identifying some schemes. So whilst we haven't actually, well, we've done some bits and pieces, Dornoch Passing Places came out of that budget. So there's been a picking away at it, but it's there's a lot of planning and programming to go on it, but this year we've got this list for you, so I'm hoping that you'll just take it and identify anything that really bothers you, or if there's anything further down you wish to take it, raise it as a priority. I would also remind members that they do have 100,000 per ward for their discretion on road schemes, not building runways or anything else, but it's just on road schemes. So if there's anything in particular, I'm conscious of footpaths being something that's been omitted on capital programmes in previous years. So I'm open to suggestions or any comments.
Okay, thanks for that, Josie. Yeah, I mean, it's well, we don't know what's going to happen yet in the budget, but hopefully there will be additional funding there for you at the end of the day. Keep our fingers crossed for that. But Thursday we'll be able to we'll have a much better idea of what's actually there. So thanks for that. Yeah, I mean, regards to the £100,000, I'm very keen to see an improvement in some of our payments in particular. Certainly on the back road in Golspie and Colburn Road in Brora, and I believe Judy's got some suggestions, and I see other hands coming up. So I'll say no more at the moment and let Jim come in. Councillor McElberry.
Thanks, Chair. A few points. Just thanks first of all for showing the allocation disaggregated by area. It's good to get an idea of what everybody else is getting, and to see where we stand in the pecking order. And I don't think we're doing too badly in that respect. The list you show is, I think I'm comfortable with. There's a few things in there I'm quite pleased to see. It would have been nice to see a provisional red line or an orangey kind of line, but obviously we have to wait till Thursday before that happens. And the final point is the 100,000 from this financial year. I still have a feeling that there's I think we agreed to in Ward 4 to split it very evenly, 1/3 each. And I'm just not sure yet where the third for IV25 and Ellerton has gone as yet, or if we can carry it over into future spend. Thanks.
Thanks for that, Jim. Councillor Mackay.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Colin and Josie. I have an emergency one, which I wonder could possibly be addressed out of the 100,000 ward allocation. It's an animal welfare issue up in Achentowel, which I think you might be aware of. The current grid has square bars, and when sheep are going over it, it's resulting in broken legs. You know, it's quite nasty. And it would be really helpful to get the square bars replaced with round bars and decoy fencing put along the side, because currently sheep are being channeled in one direction, and there is sheep scab in a neighbouring farm, and there's clearly a concern, you know, that there could be a cross-contamination. But I think the service is already aware of that, but it would be really helpful if that could, you know, be attended to as quickly as possible. And I'd welcome a timescale if you could. Richard mentioned Colburn Road. We've had a few discussions about that, and looking at it from a specifically a disability point of view, and a child that is really now a young adult. We are very, very keen to see a dropped curb introduced there. We accept, you know, the arguments that have been put to us, but, you know, I think this is quite a specific case of a youngster who is now getting physically bigger and physically heavier, and a wheelchair is required to manoeuvre him, and his mother is having to do that, and it's difficult. And the other one I would like added is the pavement at the Free Church in Brora could do with the upgrading. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks for that, Deirdre. Councillor Morrison.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and good morning, both Colin and Josie. Surprisingly, I don't have an awful lot to say today, and you'll be glad to hear it. I just look at a couple of things on the list. The Cowdell Ferry Road, it's in a bad way, but I think it's undermined as well. So it's more than just probably putting a bit of tar on top of that. I'm sure you're well aware of that. I think the water's getting in through the seawall and washing away what's below the tar. So that's maybe a bigger job than anticipated, which I'm happy to put to the side just now. Skerra Loop Road coming in from the Borgie end, the road there is needing a wee bit of attention. I'll maybe drop an email to Rossi, or would you take that, Josie, on just now if you could get somebody to have a look at that. There's also a ditch in Skerra but that's I'm sidetracking, but it's just all part of it. Like, so I can touch base with him by email. But apart from that, just we'll have to wait to see what money we have and just come back to you at the Ward Business meeting and take things forward. But no, happy with the work that's been done so far, especially over the Struy. It's been really, really good for the North users, North and West users, and Central Sutherland users. So really, really good work done there. So thanks for that as well. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Hugh. Certainly, I would agree with you. There's been a lot of good work done recently, and commend all the roads workers for the work they've been doing to keep the roads clear with the frost and everything else. That's been fantastic. And I think we'll all agree that they were happy with the capital plan here. I say once we've got the money sorted out, then we can look at if there's anything additional we can do there. I suppose the one question I have is, if there is, fingers crossed, additional monies available, do we have the resource to carry out additional works going forward? And that to me is crucial, because if we can have all the money in the world, but we haven't got people to do the work, then it's just not going to get done. Simple as that. So if we are to get more money, how do we address that, the resource issue? And that would not just mean resources for staff, but also vehicles, etc. Because sometimes I know that there are issues with an aging fleet that can cause huge problems, and if things are out of service, then jobs just don't get done. So how do you guys intend to address that if we are fortunate enough to get additional budget? Thank you.
I'm not sure if Colin wants to speak there, but I can answer sort of most of those questions. I'll do it in reverse because it's why it's fresh. Resources. We endeavour, as you know, to do as much in-house as possible for the staff to keep it going. That said, there's been a huge amount of money for which we're entirely grateful, and we are starting to look at where we can best deploy our men with their experience and their skills. And we are engaging at the moment with a contractor over recycling some sections, because we had identified in Sutherland some areas of road that would benefit from recycling. We are looking at engaging a local contractor for the north, and that touches on what Councillor Morrison said there. Rossi was actually up in the area last week, and I'd specifically asked him to go to the Skerra Loop. So we're about 5 days ahead of you there, Hugh. And so we're looking at getting some work done along the north. As you know, it is always a race to get in before a lot of the tourists come, and the sheer volume, beats us on working, especially on the single track sections. With that, we are looking at the west coast, the Drumbeg Loop. There's a couple of schemes on there that we're looking at trying to get going in March. So yeah, Skerra Loop, we're ahead of the game there. Resources, we are looking at where we can work in-house and what we need to supplement our workforce and our lorries, and we're looking at specialist contractors for recycling and a local contractor for some surfacing works. We've also been working closely with the company that have been delivering the timber transport schemes, as you know, on the 897, the Helmsdale Strath. And when there's been a contractor in doing work for the council, albeit another pot of money, we've worked with them. So the capital that was identified last year around Tramplemore was delivered by somebody else. So we're programming at the moment just now what we're going to do, and the intention is to get everything spent and just a mixture of our own guys. So hopefully, resources, we've got it covered. I'll touch on the Untitled grid. We are aware of it. Unfortunately, we don't put in round bars on our roads. All our approved bars, because their structures are flat top. We don't put them in, but we have been in discussion with the estate and we have had a conversation about how the sheep are being funneled and the fencing works that are doing. So that's in hand.
Thank you very much, Josie. Is there another way? I mean, I'm not familiar with bars and cattle grids at all, but there seemed to be that concern, you know, about sheep, you know, broken legs essentially. So are the flat top bars standard across the piece?
Yeah. They're standard.
Okay.
They're standard. I mean, I'm surprised to hear the sheep are actually trying to go across it, and it might be we have to look at a deer grid, which is twice as long. But I think the way the fencing is a bit of a is something that we can do and we can address. But the grids were checked over as part of the timber scheme works, and the grids are sound from a road safety point of view.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with them. So I've noted all the footpath works. I will come back to you, Jim, on the outstanding money for Dornoch Ward. I can pick that up at the ward business meeting. That's okay. I was going to say Colin's wanting to come in there, so I'll shut up for a minute.
Thank you, Josie. Yeah, before Colin comes in, just as I say, great work with the Heavensdale Strathmore Road improvement. That's been fantastic, and it's something that we've talked about over the past few years, and it's really good. And the Heavensdale community are delighted it's happening. So I'm delighted to see that progress, and it's continuing. And I think when it's finished, it'll make a huge difference. So thank you for that, Colin.
Well, good morning, members, and thanks for the opportunity to come. I mean, it was most important for me in terms of the capital programme to get an approved capital programme approved at this committee, and what that enables us then is to make sure we do those programming works. And as Josie rightly points out, it's that balance between those works that can be delivered in-house and those that we will put out to external contractors. And Josie's also relayed, and for those that have attended some of the redesign boards, you know, that interrelationship between the revenue budget and the capital budget means that we have to do that balancing. So consequently, we are doing the programming works, and we'd be very pleased to do that. All I would say is that if members approve additional funding for roads on Thursday, then we will be sitting down, because that might change the balance between internal and external contractors. We might find ourselves with the ability to actually externalize some of these works and still keep our squads going. So that's a good thing. Just to come back to Councillor McGilvery, I mean, the good thing about capital money is that we do have flexibility between financial years. Revenue money is a challenge, but capital we do. So if there's an underspend in certain areas, then we will be carrying that underspend forward, and we will be doing that across the piece. So the money is there. We will make sure, and not surprisingly, we will know exactly what our financial outturn for this financial year and how much budget we've got, usually in about June. So this, if you approve this, it will allow you to work away, and Josie can program those works for delivery. There's some good news for Councillor Mackay, in as much as that we do actually have a different budget for cattle grids. So that would not be coming out of this. We do have actually a line in our capital programme for structures that includes cattle grids. So if there's work that needs to be done, it won't be the expense of the work we're doing here. So that's probably all I want to say. So you know, I look forward to your approval, and that means that we can get involved. And I'm looking forward to the debate that you'll have on Thursday in terms of the capital, because members will know that you're considering both revenue and capital allocations, and it's that balance between revenue and capital that will help us moving forward. So thank you, members.
Thank you for that, Colin. That's thank you for that information and the assurance. But I think a lot will depend on what's decided on Thursday, and once we get that information, I know you guys will be on it. So thank you for that. Okay, member, I don't see any other hands. We've been asked to approve the proposed prioritised area roads capital programme for Sutherland. Are we happy to do that?
Agreed.
Great, thank you. So that's you have your approval. So thank you very much, folks. You're more than welcome to stay, but I'm sure you've got other things to be doing. And thank you very much for joining and for waiting for us. Thanks. Bye-bye now. Okay, neighbours, we're going to item 6 on the agenda, and I've declared an interest, so I will turn off my camera and mute my microphone, and Councillor Morrison will take over for this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Okay, members, so this is the Place-Based Investment Fund. And I think, Alan, are you going to speak on it first of all? Am I correct in saying that?
That's right, Councillor Morrison. I'm happy to do so.
Thank you, sir.
Morning, members. I'll try and keep this as short as possible. This paper is the Place-Based Investment Programme, not to be confused with the Council's Place-Based Investment Funds. This is a Scottish Government programme. It's a 5-year programme. It's for capital expenditure only. We currently have a 1-year grant award, despite it being a 5-year programme for spend in 21-22. You probably recollect that in September last year, Ymca committee agreed an area distribution of the funds, just as we did with the town centre funds previously, and Sutherland committee was allocated 106,964. You'll probably also recollect late last year, looking at how you wish to invest those funds, and a desire was expressed to launch a challenge fund, as you did with the town centre funds as well. The process opened on the 29th of December. It was publicised as well at that time and closed 29th of December 21 and closed on the 24th of January. A total of 2 applications were received, and the total grant amount requested was 60,000. Now, I've appended most of the detail of those applications to Appendix 1, so you can view the full background there rather than me reading it all to you today. I don't propose to refer to sections 3, 4, 5 and 6 of the report, members. The background and objectives have been covered at ward business meetings, so I don't propose to read through those again. And I'd therefore like to move straight to section 7 of the report, which are the proposals themselves. I suppose there's 4 key considerations, members, when you're looking at these bids in terms of their competency to award funds. Firstly, does the project satisfy one of the 7 PBIP objectives detailed in section 5 of the report? Secondly, and most importantly, is the expenditure capital in nature, i.e. is it a fixed physical asset? Another challenge that we have is, can the expenditure be contractually committed by the 31st of March? And I say that's a challenge given that we're sitting here on the 28th of February as well. And finally, the 4th consideration, does the project align with the local community planning partnership objectives? And if you don't mind, Councillor Morrison, I'll bring in the ward manager at the appropriate point during this discussion when we look at the actual applications themselves, just to make a quick verbal comment. So if we move to the bids themselves, 7.4, Gospel Ymca, again, a project you're all very familiar with. Go Gospel are seeking the sum of 30,000 in order to carry out a further phase of the refurbishment works there, phase 2. The total cost of that is estimated to be 179,361. Paragraph 7.4 details all the works to be included in that. Now, in terms of meeting the programme's objectives, there's no surprise what it does strongly. It's previously secured town centre fund investment. A key output of this is town centre renewal, so no issues with eligibility in that regard. It is capital. Question mark over deliverability, members, and as far as all match funding for phase 2 is not in place. Okay, so the contract award date is post-March. Now, earlier in the paper, I did allude to the fact that in September, Ymca members agreed to write to the Scottish Government to seek flexibility in carrying over funds, and I'll get onto that later in the report as well. This is a situation that we're facing across Highlands in terms of that flexibility being required. So this is not an unusual scenario. If we move to 7.5, this is Clyne Heritage Society seeking 30,000 towards a £40,000 project to undertake a LiDAR survey of the parish of Clyne. Essentially, a LiDAR survey is a high-resolution 3D laser scan survey of the parish. This would allow visitors to the visitor centre to perhaps view historical assets in a digital fashion that they otherwise wouldn't have physical access to. Now, it's a really exciting project, I'm sure you'll all agree, but unfortunately the project is ineligible as it relates to digital content and is not capital. So I do not believe it would be competent to invest PBIP in this particular project. Councillor Morrison, I forgot to bring in the ward manager when we looked at the Go Golspie project, so I think if Phil's okay to just come in here and make a quick comment in that regard.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Alan. So this is the Go Golspie application. I noted it generated outcomes including provision of inclusive and accessible community space, that can be used for intergenerational work, the opportunity to provide additional community activities not currently available in Golspie, and using intergenerational activities under one roof, which will help engagement and understanding between generations. These outcomes clearly align with Sutherland Community Partnership work, including the Children's Plan and also the Wellbeing Pathfinder project, in particular the Children and Young People and Communities and Families Action Plans. So hopefully that's an indication of sufficient alignment. Thank you, members.
Thank you, Phil.
Thanks very much, Phil. And finally, members, Section 8, the area allocation balance. Now, obviously, you are undersubscribed in terms of the challenge fund and the potential ineligible project. So if you're minded to approve the Go Golspie YMCA project, it will leave a sum of 76,964. Essentially, what I'm proposing in Section 8 is to ask Scottish Government permission to carry over the full balance, ring fence the Go Golspie amount, and seek permission to invest the residual sum in PBIT projects next year. If the Scottish Government are favourable and positive regarding that, I propose to bring a paper to the next available meeting of this committee. And that concludes all I have to say, Councillor Morrison. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alan. And I'll open it up to members for discussion and thoughts. Thank you. Everybody quite happy? Jim? You, Jim?
Just to say that I'm very content with what Alan is proposing. I think it's a bit of a shame about the broader project, but it's because of the non-capital nature, then we are where we are and we're stuck with it. And the possibility of just moving the rebalance funding forward in the next financial year will be very gratefully received by many organisations, I'm sure. So I totally approve what is put in the recommendations.
Thank you, Councillor McGilvery. Yes, I think what you're suggesting there, Alan, is the right way forward, and I'm happy to support it also. So thank you for your work also and what you've done getting this here today, and we'll take that forward if you don't mind. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, members.
Thank you.
Bye.
Now we should have, Richard's back. So, okay, Richard, that concludes item number 6, business. So I'll hand back to you just now, okay?
Thank you very much. We appreciate that. Okay, members, thanks for that. We're going on to item number 7. It's the Sutherland HRA Capital Programme, and I think we've got Brian Cameron with us today to present this report. Morning, Brian.
Morning, Chair. Morning, members. Are you okay if I do a brief introduction, Chair? Is that okay?
Yes, please, carry on.
Okay, thanks, Chair. This report provides details of the Housing Revenue Account capital resources for the area for 2022-23 and provides a proposed programme of works based on discussion with both local officers and members. As with previous Sutherland capital programmes, the focus has been on carrying out a mix of works to maintain and improve the housing stock. This involves a life cycle approach to replacing elements such as bathrooms and kitchens. And these are where maintenance officers have identified priorities for replacement based on age and property condition. Other priorities for the next financial year include investment to improve the energy efficiency of our houses. It's probably worth noting at this stage that the council is currently assessing the energy efficiency of our stock across Highland, and that's in line with a national review into net zero climate change targets and also energy efficiency standards in social housing. Further reports will obviously need to be submitted to the likes of the Housing and Property Committee in regard to that, and also just to review how that might impact on our long-term investment requirements for our council stock. The list of proposed projects for Sutherland for the next financial year is at Appendix 1. I'd probably like to draw attention of members to the adaptations budget. That's an essential principle of delivering medical adaptations to our tenants and helping them supported in their homes. And I always like drawing attention to that because I know that's a particularly important issue for our tenants with medical conditions. I'm happy to take questions, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Brian. That was interesting. It's actually an encouraging programme as far as I can see there. One thing I was going to ask about, and I didn't notice it, or maybe I missed it in it, is the upgrading of the smoke alarms in our houses. in line with the new legislation that came in this month. Can you tell me where we are with that, please?
I've actually got, unfortunately, my timing, Chair, is not particularly good. I've got a meeting tomorrow where I was going to get an updated figure for each area. I think we were certainly around about the 90 to 95% mark going back about 3 weeks ago in Sutherland area, and it was very much a case of just carrying out the work and properties where I've been able to access before. So I'll certainly circulate around ward members an updated figure once I meet tomorrow and get that to you. But we're kind of on the final stretch there in regard to the upgrades, so we're almost complete.
That's great, thanks for that. Councillor McGilvery.
Just a quick word on heating replacements. That's something we've talked about earlier, but just to get confirmation that we're not going to end up in any controversial situations like other local authorities where they have took a rather forceful view about removing the solid fuel element of the heating system, much to the displeasure of the tenants. So that's not a road I'd like to travel, if at all possible, please.
I'm happy to answer that, Councillor. I think when it comes to solid fuel systems, they don't score particularly well when it comes to the energy efficiency standards. And this is one of the things which, as a council, we probably need to make a policy decision later on this year or next year. What we've always done is, if a tenant doesn't want their solid fuel system replaced, then we allow them the opportunity to opt out of works for, say, a renewable heating system. So there's that element of tenant choice. I think what we need to do as a council in terms of a policy decision is to say if we still want to retain that element of tenant choice in the matter, or if we want to meet some of the climate change and energy efficiency targets, if we do take a more robust approach, which I know some other councils have had in the past. It's a very difficult issue. It can get very emotive, Councillor. I'm sure you know that yourself. What we always try and do, what we're currently trying to do, is allow tenants as much choice as possible, but at the same time, we also want to kind of future-proof our properties for future tenants. We have had a number of cases across Highland in the last few years where we're finding newer tenants have kind of inherited older solid fuel systems from tenants that didn't want the work done in the past, and they're having to wait a little bit longer to get a replacement now. So these are all some of the things we need to discuss as a council in the next year. And I've actually got a meeting tonight. It's a tenant working group, and we're going to be discussing issues regarding energy efficiency and what that means to tenants. And I'm pretty sure the issue of heating options and how much choice or otherwise we give tenants in the future will come up. So it'll be really interesting tonight to see what the tenant viewpoint on that is, and that'll obviously feed into some of the committee papers at a later date.
Thanks, Brian. I think that's going to be really interesting, because I'm very conscious of the fact that in some, particularly in rural areas, if they're on full electricity services and with no solid fuel, when the power goes off, they have nothing. No cooking facilities, no heating facilities, nothing at all. And it's especially with vulnerable older people or people with young families, there's a real issue there. And I know that coal doesn't fit into any kind of energy efficiency situation or from an environmental perspective, but I'm not quite sure how we overcome that problem, particularly in rural areas. Even boilers with oil, they're electrically operated. There's huge issues there. I don't know what the answer is, but if you look at some of the outages, not so much in Highland, but across Scotland, some folk have been off without power for days and days on end. It is a concern if we go down the completely electric route. And of course, we've also got to consider the fact that the cost of electricity is going shooting through the roof at the moment, and that with the price cap being taken off, and I know that there's increases up to 40% in fuel costs. So all of these things have got to be taken into consideration, and it's not an easy issue to resolve. But I look forward to hearing what the tenants and tenant participation people are saying. That would be great. Okay, members, any other questions for Brian at all? I'm not seeing any hands, Brian. So members, we are being asked to note the allocation of resources to Sutherland area set in 5.7. Note the guideline investment priorities are set in sections 5.2 and 5.3. Agree the proposed one-year HRA capital programme for 22-23. Note the position relating to the current year, and note the updates on the housing revenue account capital programme as per this report. Are we happy we've done that?
Yeah, great.
That's great. Thank you very much, members. Thank you again, Brian, and thank you for coming along today. Much appreciated. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members.
Okay, members, we're going on to item number 8, the Sutherland garage rents. And we have Marina with us to talk us through the proposals. Good morning, or sorry, good afternoon, Marina.
Good afternoon, members.
The committee.
No, we've just crossed into afternoon.
Yes, you want to give us an update on this, please?
Yeah, you have before you the Sutherland garage rent report. Following consultation with tenants, a 1% council house rent increase was approved by the Housing and Property Committee. Section 6 of this report summarises the increase of 1% and 1.5% in both wards. A 1% increase in garage rents would see a rise of 7% per week for a council tenant, and a 1.5% increase would see a rise of 11 pence per week for a council tenant. A 1% rise would be consistent with the rest of Highland. We are seeking members' approval for either a 1% or a 1.5% rise in garage rents. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you for that, Marina. Members, do you have any questions for Marina? I'm not seeing any hands, Marina. I mean, personally speaking, I'd be happy to go with the general consensus across Highland and stick to 1%. Members, would you be happy with that? Or do you have any other proposals?
Agreed, Chair. I'm happy with 1%.
Yeah.
Happy, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, Maria, I think that's the consensus. We're happy to go with 1%, and that was nice and simple and straightforward.
Thank you, members.
Thank you for coming along, Maria. Appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, members, that was a nice quick item on the agenda. I'm going to item number 9 now, and again, I'm going to hand over to you, and I'll turn the camera and mute my microphone. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. Phil, you want to lead in here?
Yeah, I'm presenting this this report. Thank you. Okay. The members, this is the place-based investment fund. So this is the council money. Members previously allocated place-based investment fund to play parks and to projects supporting mental health and wellbeing, as outlined in the report. First, the play parks. This is Ward 4 members allocated £47,000 to community-led play park projects, and we've received 2 applications, and they're outlined in the report. The first one's from Helmsdale and District Community Association, and they applied for £50,000 towards a £152,000 project at Rockview Place. The recent inspection report identified several issues requiring immediate attention and highlighted the short remaining life of the majority of the equipment. The project will deliver a space-themed play park in Rockview Place. Local children were involved in the design, and it celebrates Helmsdale-born David Mackay, the first Scot in space. To date, only a small amount of match funding has been secured, but other funders have been identified. The second project is from Go Golspie. Go Golspie Development Trust applied for £50,000 towards £72,000 cost of installing new equipment at King George V in Golspie. That's the one by the A9, prominent site. And most of the equipment from that site has been removed over recent years. The latest play park inspection notes that apart from the former road roller, which itself requires attention, the only remaining equipment, the swings, have a short remaining life. Go Golspie has liaised with local residents and aims to replace the old equipment with a new large central piece of climbing equipment and several smaller pieces. And members may remember there was a large climbing frame there in the middle, timber one, that was removed some time ago. 5,000 match funding has been secured. Go Golspie have identified the sources of funding. So for both projects, amenities have reviewed both projects and they're content with the design and the equipment proposed. And both groups have good track records. So members are recommended to approve £23,500 per project. So that's splitting the available £47,000 50-50. Additionally, normally funding would be allocated and would not be allocated until all match funding is in place. However, recognising the considerable funding still required, it is also recommended that members agree a flexible approach, whereby if the full funding packages are not achieved, but the groups can still evidence that part of the projects can be implemented with the funding they have, then the projects could still be financially supported in consultation with local members. The second is the Sutherland Counselling Service, Sutherland Cares Counselling Service. Donald Firth Group has applied for £20,000 toward the £21,500 cost of delivering Sutherland Cares Counselling Service. In Sutherland, communities experience difficulties accessing mental health treatments in a timely manner, which can contribute to poor mental health outcomes. The need for a service was identified in the Sutherland Community Partnership Pathfinder, and Donald Firth Group will run the project on their behalf. The proposal builds on a model already delivered by Scarry Community Development Company using the Scottish Counselling Service, offering up to 6 counselling sessions per client. The service will be open to adults over 18 and young people 16 to 18 not in education in all of Sutherland, although west of Sutherland is currently covered by the counselling service provided by Scarry Community Development Company. Members are recommended to approve £10,000 from each ward allocation, totalling £20,000, on the condition of phased payments based on quarterly reviews of progress and monitoring of clients' locations to ensure wide geographic update. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Phil, for guiding us through that part of it. Are we wanting to take them separate, or are we doing this en bloc, which is the best way forward? Or does it matter?
It's up to you. Maybe there are 4 recommendations. 2 of them relate to the, and there are 3 projects. Maybe just go through the recommendations here as you one by one.
Okay. Any comments, first of all, members? No, I'll take that as. So the first recommendation is for the Go Golspie. Be happy to agree that one?
Agreed, Chair, yes.
Yeah, and then the second one was the Helmstill group, or vice versa. We'll just take them one at a time anyway. Are we happy to agree the Helmstill project?
Yep, perfect, thank you.
Yeah, and then the last one was the Dornoch 10,000 from each ward. Are we happy to agree that as well? Dornoch first group, yeah.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, so that's all 3 it's agreed, Phil. So yeah, happy with that. Thank you. Okay, is Richard back again then? Yep. Okay, Chair, hand back to you. That's item 9 then. Everything's been
Thank you for that, Hugh. Much appreciated. Okay, members, going on to item number 10 on the agenda is poverty in Sutherland. Now, there is no report for this particular item on the agenda, but I felt myself that it's important that we keep our focus on the issue of poverty in the area. As we all know, fuel costs are shooting up, food costs are increasing. National insurance increases coming at the beginning of April, and we're seeing a steady increase in inflation. So we're living in very uncertain times, and well, we over the pandemic we identified many areas of poverty across the Sutherland area, and the Sutherland Community Planning Partnership has been trying to address that through various poverty subgroups. But I think it's really important that we can retain a focus on all poverty-related issues, and also we need to consider as well that as a council, there's a proposal there in our budget for Thursday to increase council tax by 3%. Now that is also going to add to the financial restraints that families are going to be affected by going forward. and we need to be very aware of that. So we're going to make an impact on that as well. We are fortunate in that through the hard work of the budget team that they actually managed to keep that down at 3%, because other councils are going for a lot higher than that. So, but it's still going to make an impact. And we also need to be thankful for the fact that the Scottish Government are putting up a number of mitigation monies there for bands A to D in the going forward. But there are many issues coming in that's affecting us. I mean, I know myself from a fuel perspective. One of the coming up from Inverness yesterday, fuel costs at some of the garages, diesel is £1.59 a litre. Now that is a massive increase over the last year, and that's going to have a huge impact on food deliveries and food costs and every other kind of issue that everything else we buy. So I think we need to keep a focus on this. We need to work with the community planning partnership going forward and give them as much support as we can for the work they're doing locally. But as a council, I think we need to be very aware of what we can do going forward as well. So as I say, there is no report, but I think it's something that we should keep on the agenda. And whoever it happens to be on the next committee after the elections, I would hope that they would retain a focus on that as well. So that's all I've got to say on it at the moment. But I've noticed a couple of hands up. So Councillor Mackay.
Chair, thank you very much for having this on the agenda, and I fully support your comments. I think there's a number of issues here. As I said, this is my last meeting. I was first elected in 1999, and at that time we did not have people in work living in such levels of poverty as we see now. As it stands, there are 27% of our children in Sutherland living in poverty, and that is a national disgrace. Now, you've referred to the work of the community partnership, and it is sterling work. Our community is all working together, working very hard to support our residents who need support. And I'll repeat again, this is people in work, not necessarily out of work. So excellent work is taking place on the ground, but that is dealing with the symptoms. It's national government that deal with what sits under that. You know, we are powerless, as is Highland Council. We can tweak with what we do, but we can't do what is required to lift people out of poverty. And I think a torch really needs to be shone on that. Now, if we look at fuel poverty in Sutherland, we are surrounded by the means of creating energy, be it wind, be it the sea or whatever. It literally surrounds us, yet we're faced with the highest charges. And if we look at the means of producing energy that we've enjoyed in the past, namely hydro and the oil and gas industry, both these industries employed thousands upon thousands of people, apprentices and good professional jobs, which in turn provided money, which helped people live comfortably and stay in the Highlands. Our new energies based on renewables are employing how many? Hundreds? It's certainly not at the levels we've previously enjoyed. And I think we need to be looking at renewables to be doing much more to support our local communities. I think that will be helpful for the new committee going forward to consider having poverty on the agenda as a standing item. It saddens me very much to suggest that, but I think it's necessary, and for the county committee to continue to work hand in hand with the community partnership. And I wish you lots of luck. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Deirdre. Councillor Munro.
Thank you, Chair. My colleague has already covered many of the salient points here. What I would like to do is, on the practical level, to remind folks that the Sutherland councillors have put money into the CABs, also to be accessed by people in work. And I think this is hugely important just to have a reminder out there. And what the CABs are doing is looking at how can we help, not 27 reasons why you don't qualify. And it's really important we get that message across, all of us. When fuel increases, Here in Sutherland, we get a double whammy. We already have some of the highest fuel in Scotland, genuinely, and we travel the greatest distances, most frequently, and by private transport. All of those are significant factors in every household. I have often described my own ward, or our own ward, sorry Hugh, by saying, in our ward, poverty drives 2 cars. I'm not being flippant, but if you do not own and drive cars in Sutherland, you do not work, you do not access services. You heard Catherine speak earlier on about a lack of accessible services. So the poorest families, those most pressed in my ward, are still likely to have mum and dad both driving cars because they'll both be travelling great distances very frequently to access the most basic of services. So really, with Deirdre, I absolutely agree. This is an ongoing, sadly, but an ongoing. But in the meantime, can we please let folks know, if you're worried, get in touch with the CABs, the council welfare system, and don't make the assumption that you can't. Maybe it's even a tank of petrol. So please talk to them. There's a lot of people suffering out there. So let's see what we can do to help and just ask. Thanks.
Thank you, Linda, and Deirdre. I think the comments that you make are absolutely spot on, and I think it's something we need to keep our eye on. And I think as a area committee, we have focused on it, and we've done our best to support the planning partnership in particular, and we've kept awareness raised. We know we've raised from the committee members, we've raised motions in full council, and we've approached the Westminster government about the distribution charges that are unfairly levied on rural areas, and we need to keep the focus on that, because we should not be penalised when we're producing vast amounts of energy, and then we've got to pay extra to get it delivered to our own doorstep, and I think that's just totally unfair. And the one last thing I would like to say on this is to do with council tax. Where we are at the moment, well, there is mitigation coming in for bands A to D. You could have a retired couple living in a band E property on £20,000 a year and paying the same council tax as the property 2 doors along with a household income of £100,000 a year. So the council tax needs to be based on ability to pay, not on the banding of your house. And I think these days are very, very unfair tax, and it needs to be addressed going forward. And I hope that the new council will carry on and represent the people of Sutherland and the rest of the Highlands, and get this and a basic, whether it's some kind of income tax or whatever way they want to work it, it needs to be based on ability to pay, not on what kind of house you live in. Okay, members, I don't see any other hands, so I think we can move on to the next item, which is the Common Good report, I believe. If I'm not mistaken, I'll just check my agenda. And I think this Phil's going to present that for us.
Okay, thank you, Chair. This is the Donald Common Good Fund Annual Report 2020-21, the proposed budget for 2022-23, and the Q3 monitoring for the current year, 21-22. So first, the annual report. The fund shows a surplus for the year of 17,482, which is larger than budgeted. There was a small underspend, and there was increased rental income. And the report includes a list of the community grants that were made during the year. Next, the budget for 2022-23. The budget's outlined in the report, and it will deliver a very small surplus to the fund. As you'll recall, there's a significant deficit this year due to 3 significant projects. The allocation to grants and contributions for 25 is £25,000, which is the number or the amount that we've had in for community grants for many years. And there's an additional £7,000 to add to that. It's just an outstanding last payment to be drawn down by Donnock Heritage Ski Yard from the current year. The other budget lines remain unchanged from the current year, and members are asked to note that budgeted income is based on the current lease with Royal Donnock Golf Club, and that will be amended as required once the new lease is finalised. Finally, the Q3 monitoring. The report contains the latest monitoring report and explanation of the anticipated variances. So members are asked to consider the Donnock Common Good Fund annual report and accounts for 2020-21, agree the Donnock Common Good Fund annual budget for 2022-23, and consider the position of the Donnock Common Good Fund as shown in the Q3 monitoring statement against budget. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Phil. Members, do you have any questions or comments regarding the report? Councillor McGilvery.
Just to thank Phil for all the work he does in putting this together. Very satisfactory report, and we await the reconciliation of the Royal Dornoch Golf Club lease to bring more money in. It's a hard-working fund, and I think I very much welcome the element of flexibility. That although we have an annual figure to work to, the flexibility around that is greatly appreciated as demands come upon us. So very satisfactory. So I think we can approve that, hopefully.
Okay, thanks for that, Jim. Okay, members, we're being asked as to agree with the recommendations, which Phil has gone over with us. Are we happy to do that?
Great.
Okay, that's fine. All right, thank you very much, folks. Okay, moving on. The next item on the agenda is the minutes of the last meeting. Are there any issues that come from the minutes at all? Are we quite happy to accept them?
Approved.
Agreed. Thank you very much. Okay, members, that brings us, I think, to the end of our meeting. Just give me 2 seconds. Yeah, it does. So just before we finish, what I'd just like to make a few comments myself. And first of all, I'd like to thank Phil and Anne for all the work they've done to work for the committee, and for all the officers who've come along and given us reports. And we've been very fortunate in the standard of reports that's come to us, and I'm greatly appreciative of that. I'm very aware that this is the last meeting of the Sutherland Committee for this council term. And I would just like to thank all of you for the support you've given me for over the last couple of years, and to pay a particular tribute to Deirdre, Linda, and Kirsten for the recognition that they're standing down, and thank them for all the contributions they made to the Sutherland Area Committee over the years. And it's greatly appreciated, and I wish you all the very best going forward. And I'm sure that we'll see you again in different guise, no doubt, in county committee for could be planning partnerships or whatever that may be. But I wish you well. And so thank you very much indeed. And I see 2 hands coming up. So first of all, we've got Linda.
Pretty sure Deirdre was before me, but I'll take it. Thank you, Chair. Just to say a huge thank you to yourselves. The very best of luck to those of you that are standing again, and keep up the good work. And a big, big thank you to the officers for all their support over these many years. Thanks.
Absolutely. Deirdre.
Yes, Chair, just to echo Linda's sentiments. We've been through a lot over very, very many years, and again, I would like to pay just a special thanks to you all as colleagues. You know, we've worked very well, and I think we've a strong tradition in Sutherland of working collaboratively in cooperation, and it works well. It does. It makes life much easier. We've enjoyed the support of first-class officers. You know, our work, I think, has always been conducted with a great deal of respect and courtesy, and most of all, good humour. You know, humour goes a long way. So I just want to make one final exception and single a person, Phil. You know, Phil has been my ward manager from day one, and when I think of Phil, it really is an oasis of calm. You know, regardless of what the situation, Phil has always just steered us through. He's been tremendous. He just works so quietly and gets on with things. And I really like William Gilfillan. I am in awe of Phil's ability to maintain a straight face. So a huge thank you to Phil, and good luck to everybody going forward, the Highland Council and Sutherland County Committee.
Thank you for that, Deirdre. It's tremendous in times ahead. I think we would all agree that the last 5 years have been exceptionally challenging, with hellfires and pandemics and goodness knows what else. But we've got to the end of the 5 years, and now we're facing with a global crisis that we have very little influence on. So there's no 5 years will bring, and my colleagues are standing again. I wish you the best of luck, and we'll just wait and see who's here when it comes down to forming the next Sutherland Area Committee. Anyway, thank you for your attendance, folks. greatly appreciated, and all the best.